Today, on another episode of the Danville Discussion.
Well, that was an interesting experiment.
Excuse me, but why are you not studying?
It's summer vacation. You know, no school, when teachers aren't around and all you have to worry about are bullies. Hey, Buford, that seat's kind of taken.
This table's taken. Sit somewhere else.
What about Baljeet?
Please go. You will just make him angry.
This is gonna hurt.
Hey, put him down. Do as she says.
Violence can only lead to more violence.
Sounds good to me.
To the Danville Discussion, a podcast about all things related to Phineas and Ferb and beyond. My name is Caleb Dirksen, and some of you may know me from my YouTube channel of the same name, home of some web series related to animation such as Caleb Reviews. If this is your first time for the Danville Discussion, well, let me just say that the title should explain everything for you. It's a podcast in which I go through each episode of either Phineas and Ferb or Hamster and Gretel, and I search for all the cultural and in-universe references, some fun facts, and whatever else I can find, and then I will end things off by giving each episode a roller coaster rating. So for today's episode, I'm going to finally get back into regular episode reviews after a bi-weekly period of 2 bonus episodes, and I'm going to discuss about episode 5 of Phineas and Ferb, which features the following 2 segments, Raging Bully and Lights, Candace, Action. If you want to check out more episodes of the Danville Discussion, then go to anchor.fm/Caleb-Dirksen, and it'll take you directly to the Danville Discussion website on Anchor. You can also share your feedback or ask some questions you may have about this episode by emailing us at danvillediscussion@gmail.com with the series and episode title in the subject line. Now, to start things off, we're going to find out when these segments first premiered. So, Raging Bully premiered on Disney Channel on February 4th, 2008, and was the 6th episode to air in broadcast order, and Lights, Candace, Action aired on Disney Channel the day before on February 3rd that year, and it was the 5th episode to air. Now, our first subject here is this episode's first segment, Raging Bully. And Raging Bully was a story by Swampy Marsh, Martin Olson, and Dan Povenmire. It was storyboarded by Wendy Grieb and Ken Osborne, and it was directed by Dan Povenmire. In this episode, Candace is sitting in her chair skimming through pictures of Jeremy on her cell phone that appear to have been taken either against his will or when he was taken completely by surprise. Then Linda comes in and tells her that her jazz trio will be performing at the Squat and Stitch in the Googleplex Mall, and asks Candace to bring Phineas and Ferb with her to come and hang out there today. Candace is excited, especially because Jeremy works there at the Mr. Slushy Dog, and she wants to go see him. At the mall, Linda starts her jazz gig, telling the knitting woman that they will be playing some freeform jazz today, and continuity-wise, Linda and her band continue to play since this appearance, such as in Cirque du Soleil.
Testing. Welcome, everyone. We'll be playing some freeform jazz today. It might get a little crazy, so hold on to those knitting needles. Hit it, girls!
Candace gives Phineas and Ferb some money for the food court, and she tells them to meet back where they are in 2 hours as she's going to be visiting Jeremy during his work hours, and she leaves walking out with her arms bending like a panting dog, which I liked. Phineas wonders where Perry is, while Perry goes down to his lair using a vending machine for drinks that scans his foot and opens up into a slide. He suddenly squeaks to a stop because the slide isn't wax and has to pull himself along, which I thought was funny. When he finally makes it into his lair, Major Monogram apologizes to Perry, saying that the slide waxing guy is on jury duty that weekend, and he then asks Agent P to look into some odd purchases, including 4 helicopter blades, 24 party balloons, and 6,000 light bulbs, all bought by Dr. Doofenshmirtz, who is hiding out at the old abandoned cake factory on the edge of town. Then stops, telling his assistant Carl that some visual indications of the mission were still on the screen. I also chuckled when this happened.
Doofenshmirtz has purchased some suspicious items. 4 helicopter blades, 24 party balloons, and light bulbs. 6,000 of them. He's hiding out at the old abandoned cake factory on the edge of Carl, the light bulb and the 6,000 still on screen.
But one goof I obviously found is that everything in the lair is mirrored. The video monitor is on the right, but normally it's on the left, which could mean that the camera was on the other side of the room. That might be my guess. But anyhow, Perry exits his lair to investigate the matter. Back above, Jeremy is cleaning a counter when Candace makes her appearance. She comes up to talk to him, then tells him that her cell phone is ringing and takes a picture of him, telling him her camera went off and laughing uncontrollably all the while. Meanwhile, Phineas and Ferb are doing an experiment to see how long it takes for the top scoop to melt off of a double scoop ice cream cone, while Baljeet is studying during summer vacation because he has summer school. And this is the first appearance of Baljeet Jinder, by the way. He's voiced by Malik Pancholi, who would also voice Sanjay Patel in Nickelodeon Sanjay and Craig, and played another character named Sanjay Patel in Weeds. Buford arrives on the scene to take their table. Buford, flattening Baljeet, shoves the schoolwork off of the table and takes Baljeet's drink. Once he finishes with the drink, he throws it and it hits a kid behind him and the kid runs for it. By the way, Buford and Baljeet are introduced under the theme of bullying, and as of now, all subsequent appearances by both characters often feature Buford bullying Baljeet in some way. And Phineas tries to point out that the seat was already taken, but Buford backtalks him, saying the table is taken, and Baljeet says to leave Buford alone as Phineas will only make him angrier. Then Phineas accidentally drops his last scoop of the ice cream on Buford's pants, making everyone in the food court laugh at him, and Buford gets angry and wants to fight Phineas immediately, but Isabella intervenes, and Baljeet says that violence will only lead to more violence, and Buford responds, "Sounds good to me." But then World Heavyweight Boxing Champion Evander Holyfield comes up and offers to train Phineas for the fight outside the mall at 3 o'clock. And this is another fun fact. This is the first episode to feature a celebrity guest star, let alone one voicing themselves in the show, because Evander Holyfield was not only featured here, but also given his own cartoon counterpart.
Hold it!
World Heavyweight Boxing Champion Evander Holyfield?
If you don't know who Evander Holyfield is, like Isabella said, he is a very famous professional boxer. He competed from 1984 to 2011. For his appearance here, the producers wanted to make the most of Holyfield's ear, so his animated character was only given half an ear, leaving a bite out of Holyfield's right ear, which references the infamous biting incident in the second Holyfield-Tyson fight. But although I don't watch much boxing, I do remember the game Ready to Rumble Boxing, which I still have on the Nintendo 64. Then there's this use of the too young gag I liked again, where Phineas asks if Evander is a little too old to be a professional boxer.
Aren't you a little old to be a professional boxer?
Yes, I am.
Cool.
And then Ferb declares Phineas's 3 o'clock schedule free when Buford challenges him to a fight. For continuity, it seems that Ferb keeps a day timer for both of them, as he is seen in a later episode checking up on availability for the evening of a dance, appearing in Out to Launch. Then Buford leaves, saying to not be late because his mom picks him up at 4 o'clock. While Buford, Phineas, Ferb, Evander Holyfield, and everyone else think it is a great idea, Isabella and Baljeet are worried. Baljeet claims Phineas has found a one-way magic carpet ride to his own destruction, and Isabella reminds him what happened to the last kid Buford fought. who apparently had a toilet stuck on his head. A nice cutaway gag right there.
It looks like we found something to do today.
What you have found is a one-way magic carpet ride to your own destruction.
He's right. Remember what happened to the last kid Buford fought? I don't want that to happen to you.
It then leads into the montage with the song He's a Bully, as Phineas trains by running up a down-moving escalator, playing a version of Dance Dance Revolution, and punching strings of sausages, while Buford goes to a gym called Wedgie's, the Gym for Bullies, a weird name for a gym, and trains himself by dunking the heads of practice dummies into toilets, knocking books out of their arms, and giving them wedgies. When Phineas is at the jungle gym, said structure that the laughing kids are on is the same and in the same location as seen during the Straight Up Bus song in the Season 4 episode Imperfect Storm. At the end of the montage, Phineas makes it to the top of the escalator. The song itself is pretty good, plus the beat of the song and the way Phineas trains is reminiscent of the famous Rocky movies, reminding me of the Eye of the Tiger sequence.
Your opponent is as big as an 8, so if you want to avoid being mangled. Rising up, back on the street, did my time, took my chances.
When the song ends, Phineas raises his arms up in the same way that Rocky did at the end of the training montage. Also, both Buford and Phineas are seen punching meat, which is one way Rocky trained. Meanwhile, Millie passes out flyers to everyone while stating there will be a brawl at the mall, and this is Millie's first actual speaking role. She's voiced by Isabella Murad, though her name doesn't appear in the credits.
Here you go. Brawl at the mall. 3 o'clock. Brawl at the mall.
Candace crumples up her flyer when she receives it, and as Ferb finishes a full-sized boxing ring, Candace comes up to tell the boys that they can't just build an arena out in the middle of the mall parking lot, and then storms off to tell Mom, taking a picture of Jeremy as she passes by.
What do you think you're doing? You can't just go building a boxing ring out here in the mall parking lot. I am telling Mom right now.
Candace finds Mom and tries to convince her mother and get Phineas in trouble, but Linda is busy with her gig and doesn't offer any help. Remembering the flyer, she goes to ask for one as proof of the boys' projects. Meanwhile, Agent P walks into the abandoned cake factory, but the floor opens up beneath him and he is trapped in a giant vat of Dunkelberry cake mix. Dr. Doofenshmirtz shows up and says that in 30 to 40 minutes, the yeast will cause the cake to rise, burying Agent P alive because the yeast in cakes releases carbon dioxide gas, which helps make it rise. He then passes down a piece of cake to Perry. In a backstory about his childhood, we learn that today is Doof's birthday, which he has always had to celebrate alone because nobody could ever bother to show up, not even his parents, which I felt bad for him at that.
Unfortunately, my birthday has always been the lousiest day of the year. It all began on the day of my actual birth. Both of my parents failed to show up.
Dr. Doof tells Perry that when he was 5, he was forced to throw his own surprise party at Gunther Goat Cheese's, which is obviously a parody of the Chuck E. Cheese chain of family restaurants. The flashback shows young Doofenshmirtz sitting all alone in a kid-themed restaurant, looking at an animatronic band. The puppets are a wolf named Count Wolfgang, playing kettle drums, a pig named Betty the she-boar, playing violin, a rat named Rat Putin, playing accordion, and his life buddies Olga and Chicago Joe, and he describes them as his closest friends. We also learn that Dunkelberry bats love Dunkelberry cake and will swarm to it if it's uncovered. After he tells him his story, Dr. D unveils the Slaveinator, which makes crowds of people do whatever he wants. He demonstrates it on Perry by forcing him to clap and clean up his plate. Doofenshmirtz intends to use it to force people into celebrating his birthday and cleaning up the party afterwards. After Doof flies away atop the helicopter-equipped Slaveinator, Perry pulls out a pouch of whistles and tries to call a swarm of bats, but ends up calling a whale because 2 of his whistles were mixed up. He puts them in their proper places and successfully calls the swarm of Dunkelberry bats, who free him by eating all of the cake batter. And aside from the bat and whale whistles. Perry also has whistles for summoning cats, dogs, cows, Komodo dragons, and sardines. But when Perry opens his roll of whistles, Komodo dragon is misspelled as Komodo dragon with an A instead of the first O, which was an awkward yet goofy error to me. Also, bats do not come out during the day in real life, so there's sort of a minimal way they could have eaten the cake during the day. I guess these bats might be wearing an invisible shield that protects them from getting burned by the sun. Perry then rides the bats into the air and follows Dr. Doofenshmirtz, who is now flying above Ferb's boxing ring, where Buford and Phineas are beginning their thumb wrestling match. The announcer introduces Phineas and Buford to the crowd in a funny way.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, he's from a broken home. His hobby is breaking bones. Buford, the bully! And in this corner, he's got moves, he's got grace. His nose takes up his entire face. Fabulous, Phineas Flynn!
When this episode originally aired, the original line he said when introducing Buford was said as, "He's from a broken home, he's missing a chromosome." But all subsequent prints of this episode afterwards, including iTunes and Disney+, they all replace it with, "He's from a broken home, his hobby is breaking bones." And this is possibly due to unfortunate implications from the first phrase. I don't really remember watching that original version, and I don't even know if that clip is on YouTube yet. And when the opponents have joined him in the ring, he reads off a document stating that nothing in the match should contain any acts of violence that an impressionable child viewer would imitate, which I laughed at as a good fourth wall break.
Okay, boys, let's have a fair and square fight, and in no way should this ensuing fight contain the image of a potentially harmful, hurtful, or psychologically disturbing physical act that could be found imitatable by an impressionable child viewer.
Plus, later on, a movie later made by Dr. Doofenshmirtz uses a very similar line regarding platypus enemies in the episode Grease Lightning.
Historically, the enemies of the platypus were well known. The poisonous swamp viper, the snaggle-toothed badger, and duplicating imitatable stunts seen on television.
The opponents then stick their thumbs into two holes in the little table, upon which a mini thumb wrestling ring sits and prepare to start the fight. Also, fun fact, the announcer is voiced by famous boxing announcer Michael Buffer, and he also says, "Let's get ready to thumb wrestle," which parodies Buffer's trademark catchphrase when he introduces each boxing match. "Let's get ready to rumble!"
Boys and girls, let's get ready to thumb wrestle! Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
While all this happens, Candace is still trying to get a flyer, but Holly and Ginger tell her that they ran out of stuff to promote the fight. Another fun fact, in the credits, a character named Holly is mentioned. She is one of the Fireside Girls Candace tried to get something talking about the brawl at the mall from, just as the fight was starting, the other being Ginger. Holly is the black one with the puffy pigtails, and Ginger is the Japanese-American one. Holly was voiced by Symphonique Miller and would later be voiced by Diamond White, who's gonna be the voice of Luna Lafayette, aka Moon Girl, in Marvel's Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur on Disney Channel.
Sorry, we're all out of flyers.
Poster.
Nope.
Action figures.
Sold out.
Commemorative coin.
All gone.
8x10 glossy photo.
Those went like hotcakes.
Photo. Yes! Photographic evidence!
Candace decides to take a picture of the fight and hurries over to the match. She passes by Jeremy on the way, who appears to be doing a circus act of balancing corn dogs and drink cups on his head, arms, and one of his legs, though when he lowers his arms, everything stays in place, and she dearly wants to take his picture, but her phone's memory is 99% full, so she has to use her last picture on the boys and runs off with a frustrated expression, leaving Jeremy surprised and disappointed. This makes it the second episode in which Candace uses a photo as proof after the Fast and the Phineas. Perry rides the bat swarm right to Doofenshmirtz's helicopter screen, and Doof shoots a party hat of doom at Perry, but he performs a backflip so it misses and hits a table instead, spilling some party goods, including assorted noisemakers. Perry beats the doctor up with two noisemakers by blowing into them repeatedly and punching the plastic so it punches him in the face. Phineas and Buford begin the fight, and Buford is winning since his thumb beats back Phineas's and threatens to overtake it several times. Perry and Doof are still conducting their own fight high above. Doof attempts to beat Perry into submission with ping pong paddles, which Perry deflects with noisemakers that spin around. He is overwhelmed and knocked off, but manages to hang on to the edge of the screen. Doofenshmirtz smashes his fingers with the controls to the Slavinator, but Agent P refuses to let go, much to Doofenshmirtz's consternation. The Slavinator moves in front of the audience, spelling ooh. The audience repeats what the Slavinator says. Down below, Phineas is resting in his corner. He tells his trainer that he doesn't think things are going so well. Evander Holyfield gives him some encouragement until running out of phrases and sends him back out, and that part got me laughing.
I don't think this is going so well.
Nonsense, kid. Go for the goal. Fight fire with fire. Shoot him the stink eye. Grease the pig. I got nothing.
Plus, the lines about fighting fire with fire were said by Doofenshmirtz in Cheer Up Candace from Season 2. Candace comes and takes a picture just as Buford gives Phineas's thumb a thorough beating. Candace races back to her mother with the photo and shows it to her, but her mom remains unimpressed, as all there is of Phineas is the top of his head. The rest of the photo is covered by Candace's thumb, which is odd because she holds her phone by the bottom. She grabs her mother by the arm and drags her over to the arena. Then Dr. Doofenshmirtz prepares to smudge Perry's face with ice cream. Perry, still hanging from the edge of the helicopter, uses his whale whistle and attracts the same whale that soars over the Slavinator, knocking the scoop of ice cream out of Dr. Doofenshmirtz's cone, much to his disarray. Perry uses the distraction to climb back aboard, and the whale jumps over Doof like in the movie Free Willy, another cultural reference I found. During the match, Buford pins Phineas's thumb. He then grabs it, pulls Phineas up through the boxing ring, and tosses him into the corner. But just as Buford is getting ready to knock Phineas out hard with his thumb, the ice cream from Dr. Doof's ice cream cone lands on Phineas's head, causing Buford to laugh at it, and the two decide to end their fight, seeing as Phineas had now been embarrassed in the same manner as Buford had, and they accept each other. Doofenshmirtz accidentally makes the propeller break off of the top of the tower, but manages to grab onto the propeller and his cake and make an escape. Perry grabs a balloon and floats down to safety, while the cake spills onto Dr. D and the bats swarm around him, muffling out his Curse You Perry the Platypus bit.
Goodbye, Perry the Platypus. At least I still have my cake. Curse you, Perry the Platypus!
As the Slavinator falls down onto the ring and commands everyone to clean up the party mess. After Evander leaves and Perry returns, Candace arrives with her mother in tow, only to find that the fight is over and the arena is no longer there because the hypnotized people had cleaned everything up. So Linda leaves for her second set with the jazz trio, and Candace has a hilarious faint moment.
See?
Hi, Mom.
Hi, boys. If you'll excuse me, Candace, I'm gonna get back for the second set.
Buford asks Phineas if he wants to do the same thing tomorrow, but Phineas responds that he needs to keep moving forward.
Hey, Dinner Bell, that was the best battle ever. Same thing tomorrow?
Nah, I like to keep moving forward.
I like that bit, and it's actually Phineas's motto. In terms of cultural references, Cornelius Robinson, aka Lewis, uses it as his motto in the Disney animated film Meet the Robinsons, and said motto for both Phineas and Lewis was taken from a quote from Walt Disney. Around here, however, we don't look backwards for very long. We keep moving forward, opening up new doors and doing new things because we're curious, and curiosity keeps leading us down new paths. Ferb says sharks have to continue to move forward or they'll drown, causing Buford to accuse Ferb of calling him a shark. And then Ferb uses the Vulcan nerve pinch on Buford, a reference to the Star Trek franchise, and after that, he says, well, he was all up in my face. That was a hilarious ending to this episode, and it was also the first instance that Ferb had more than just one line of dialogue in an episode. He had an extended period of dialogue lasting around 10 seconds.
Sharks have to continue to move forward, or they'll drown.
You calling me a shark?
Ferb.
Well, he was all up in my face.
Oh, what happened?
For the rest of the cultural references, the episode's title is obvious. It's parodying the movie Raging Bull. I might watch that film one day, but the main character is a boxer, and the use of the opera song during the fight is also a reference to the opening scene of the film. In this case, It's Going So Badly.
Go! Oh, the humanity! Flint falls hard. The crowd's on its feet. It's over. It's all over. Our heroes on the ropes, and now it's looking like the end.
Speaking of which, the indecipherable Italian words heard in It's Going So Badly are from the aria Vesti la Giuba from the opera Pagliacci by Ruggero Leoncavallo. The last major one is that the plot of this episode also has some similarities to the 1987 movie 3 O'Clock High, which is set around a nerdy kid's day after he's been challenged to a fight at 3 o'clock in the parking lot behind the school, and this is exactly the case with Phineas and Buford's 3 o'clock match in the parking lot of the Googleplex Mall. The rest of the fun facts include that this episode was even adapted into a book called Thumbs Up, which is available on sites like Amazon. Maybe later at some point I'll talk about the Phineas and Ferb books on this podcast. In addition to being the second time Candace attempts to show Linda the big idea through a photo, this is the second time that Candace didn't reveal what the big idea was to Linda, also following the Fast and the Phineas. Finally, regarding Dr. Doof's birthday, in the second movie, Candace Against the Universe, Dr. Doofenshmirtz is revealed to be a Virgo, ranging from August 23rd to September 22nd. However, this contradicts the fact that this episode is likely set earlier in the summer, but in that movie, Buford is less of a bully than in this episode, so it might draw confusion for me. By the way, for the thumb wrestling aspect of this episode, I remember watching this show called Thumb Wrestling Federation on YTV, and it was basically like WWE but with thumb wrestling, and I've had some fond memories of that one. Lastly, both this and the next segment were animated by Rough Draft Korea and Wang Film Productions, and here, the animation was mostly good through all of this. There are times when it gets really smooth at a 24 frames per second frame rate, and some of the expressions are very creative, where sometimes they would use geometry for their mouths rather than the usual Povenmire style, and the eyes would sometimes get bigger during a shocked state. I also like how Candace bent her arms like a dog when walking to see Jeremy, and the scanning effects on the vending machine. There are some bizarre parts, like when Phineas turns his head when asking where Perry is. He isn't facing directly toward the screen, but both of his eyes are up front as he's turning if you pause at the correct time. For the other errors, when Buford comes to the table where Phineas and Ferb are sitting, Ferb's bigger eye is in the front of his face, while a smaller eye is behind it, where normally the smaller eye would be in the front. I spy the same error when Phineas said hello to Linda from the empty lot after the fight. Those errors will always be funny to me. Before Doofenshmirtz says he will smudge Perry's face with the ice cream, Doof's eyebrows disappear, but try to pause at the correct time for that. But Doof looks a bit weird without them, as I normally always see his eyebrows, and when the cake falls on Doofenshmirtz, the cake cream is pink, but when the camera zooms out before the backs surround him, the cake cream is beige. In conclusion, this is yet another episode I enjoyed. It's not perfect, but it does have plenty of things for me to like about it. Now, our next segment for this episode is Lights, Candace, Action. And this one was a story by Bobby Gaylor, Swampy Marsh, Martin Olson, and Dan Povenmire. It was storyboarded by Sherm Cohen and Antoine Gilbeau, and it was directed by Dan Povenmire. This episode finds Candace in her bedroom quoting lines from her favorite play, The Princess Sensibilities, in front of a mirror, which sounds like a mix of The Princess Diaries and Sense and Sensibility. Plus another cultural reference, the parts of the play that Candace quotes at the beginning of the episode contain references to the to be or not to be soliloquy from the Shakespeare play Hamlet.
To think, to dream. Whether 'tis nobler to love, I know not. Ah, the Princess Sensibilities, my favorite play. What is going on out there?
But then she hears a roar and goes to the backyard to see and bust whatever her brothers are doing. Phineas and Ferb are making a monster movie in the backyard, complete with a tiny city through which a miniature monster rampages, kinda like Godzilla. Candace bursts in to scream at them to keep it down and stomps on the set, destroying it, but they don't seem at all dismayed. When she says their movies are lame, they tell her that their website received 176 million units last week.
Ruin everything! I am trying to practice the art of acting, and I will not be disturbed by your little movies.
Not so little anymore. Last week, our website got 176 million hits.
Linda comes home, presumably from the store, as she has a bag of groceries in her arms, and mentions to Candace that somebody was filming a movie version of the play The Princess Sensibilities. She instantly becomes determined to get the part of the princess in the movie, as she apparently knows every line from heart, having practiced for her drama club all summer, and she runs off, leaving Phineas and Ferb alone in the backyard. Phineas wonders where Perry is, and there he says, "That's serendipitous." Meanwhile, Agent P is shown in his lair being instructed to find out why Dr. Doofenshmirtz has been so quiet lately, and to put a stop to it, whatever it is. For one, this is the first time that Monogram uses the "Oh there you are, Perry" running gag, and the first time Perry isn't seen entering his lair, and second, Monogram's briefing was so funny.
There you are, Agent P. There's something very strange going on with Dr. Doofenshmirtz. He's been very quiet lately. A little too quiet. I want you to find out what's not going on and, put a stop to it, I suppose. Good luck, Agent P.
Agent P salutes Major Monogram, and then his chair turns into a rocket, powering him up and out straight through the street, leaving a hole. The chair spouts a helicopter-like propeller and carries him off straight over the film set where Candace is now trying to land a part in the movie. Candace is shown walking into the producer's trailer. The producer is irate because his lead actress quit. Then Candace pitches herself to him by reciting a small chunk of lines from the play, and I love the silly way she recites those lines.
Well, sir, this is your lucky day. To think, to dream. Whether 'tis nobler to love, I know not.
He views her as a good prospect, but hesitates, so she promises him she'll work for free. The producer uses the money he saves to hire the hottest new directors in town. He calls and tells them to come down. The only problem is that Candace doesn't know it yet. In the makeup chair, Candace is introduced to some of her instructors, such as her swimming instructor, her clothes designer, and even her bagel. She also gets introduced to her personal trainers, Olga and Chicago Joe, who were the lights at Gunther Goat Cheese's in Raging Bully. That whole moment I found funny.
Wow, I could get used to this.
Miss Candace, here's your contract and your bagel. This is Antoine, your dialogue coach, Nikki, your swimming stand-in, and your personal trainers, Olga and Chicago Joe.
Sure. Drop and give me 20.
Also, the woman with the ginger hair and the puffy bottom of it who does Candace's nails is the same one who makes a cameo appearance in Perry's theme song as one of the women who swoons when he chirps. The producer then introduces her to the new directors, and Candace is shocked when she finds out they're her own brothers. Phineas explains how Isabella helped them out, being their agent and all, standing in front of a green screen, and that part was a favorite of mine.
We're directing the movie. Our new agent arranged the whole thing.
Look, my client gets 3% of the gross and a piece of the back end, or he walks. Yeah, that's right. You mess with the bull, you get the horns, buddy. Hello? Sid, baby, you got that third act in line yet?
Running gag alert, Candace asked the producer if they were a little young to be big-budget movie directors, but even the producer knew about Phineas and Ferb on their last movie getting 176 million hits, saying that they could be in diapers for all he cares.
Wait! Don't you think they're a little young to be big-budget movie directors?
With 176 million hits, they could be in diapers for all I care.
When Candace gets into her costume, it turns out she has to wear a monster mask during the filming. She says that she doesn't remember any monsters being in the Princess Sensibilities. Phineas tells her that they finished rewriting the copy of the script into The Curse of the Princess Monster, with Candace still in the lead role. Candace complains that no one would see her face. The producer then explains that at the end of the movie, the curse is lifted and this could make her a star, leaving Candace daydreaming about being a star, which shows her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, as well as her arriving at the film's premiere in a limo, making her handprints in the cement, and being featured on a magazine or newspaper cover with a photo of her holding several awards, which may be a parody of the Academy Awards, and her headlines read, "Candace cleans up, acting genius takes home 16 awards." She tries to run out onto the stage to begin filming, but every time, her monster head is knocked off by the door, and that part was also a favorite to me.
Hey, ugly monster! You're needed on the set.
I'm cutting!
Perry breaks into the Doofenshmirtz Evil Incorporated headquarters. The normal evil jingle plays.
Doofenshmirtz Evil Incorporated!
He breaks in by completely smashing the front door, but no evil is going on, and Dr. Doofenshmirtz forces Perry to pay for the broken door. Perry hands him some money, but he demands more, saying that it's not just drywall, it's solid oak, a favorite moment I like.
This time, you'll pay. That's right, fork it over. What, are you kidding me? It's not just drywall, you know, it's solid oak. That's more like it.
He lectures Perry on breaking down people's doors, making Agent P feel guilty. It turns out that the doctor has given up evil to pursue cheesemaking. He is making stinky Limburger, which apparently is an old Doofenshmirtz family recipe made by suspending a milk cow over a boiling cauldron when milking, which is a weird way to make cheese.
Besides, I've given up evil to pursue the art of cheese making. Do you like stinky Limburger? It's a Doofenshmirtz family recipe.
The cheese must age for 58.5 years to be completely finished, but Doofenshmirtz says that nobody has that kind of time and has therefore invented the age accelerator inator to speed up the process.
It's not ready yet. It still has to age for 58.5 years. But who's got that kind of time? Which is why I created the Age Accelerator Inator.
Then we cut back and pan across the set where the Fireside Girls are crew members, with Holly barring the door to ensure a closed set, Gretchen holding a microphone pole, Millie holding a clapperboard, and Ginger as the camera person. And what's weird to me is as this happens, Gretchen's scleras can be visible when she's holding the pole, and Millie has a bow on the left side of her head, but the bow is on her other side. Phineas and Ferb are doing some chase scenes. Ferb is throwing fake missiles, Air Force planes, and bathroom supplies at Candace as props, representing the villagers, but Ginger whispers to Phineas that the lens cap wasn't removed, and he takes it off.
Beautiful! That's a print. Oh, that's a little embarrassing. Okay, people, nice rehearsal. Let's take it from the top.
They then strap the camera onto a hungry chimpanzee or a hungry Ferb and make Candace hold food, and those moments were hilarious.
Wow! Is this banana hat for some cool tropical dance number?
We're trying to come up with some exciting camera angles for the big chase scene, so we strapped the camera onto the starving monkey. Sorry that monkey cam didn't work out. We're gonna try it with Ferb this time. Now take this sandwich and remember, Ferb hasn't eaten lunch yet. Hold on tight.
Then Ginger dumps rats, spiders, and snakes onto the princess monster. Phineas says that Candace will get hit with 800 cubic feet of rats, spiders, and snakes, but a close-up on the boxes shows rats, bats, and snakes. Plus, Phineas reassures Candace that the snakes are rubber, much like when the snakes land on everyone in Roller Coaster. And then Candace gets crawled on by the rats and spiders. That whole scene was funny.
Okay, In this scene, the monster, that's you, gets attacked by 800 cubic feet of rats, spiders, and snakes.
There is no way I am doing that!
Relax. They're made out of rubber. Well, the snakes are anyway.
Next is the beauty shot, where the curse has been lifted and Candace is no longer a monster, and it's all about what the heart wants but the mind can't have. And as Candace is acting out her lines in an over-the-top manner, Ferb dumps a whole pile of fairy dust onto her, causing her to sneeze, and the box falls after. Ferb then turns on the wind machine, which sends Candace to the edge of her bed as she grabs onto it, and because Candace's ears are shown as her hair is being blown back, this is the first time Candace's ears are shown.
To dream! To be free of the curse.
Beautiful. Keep going. Cue the magical girly dust.
Whether 'tis nobler to be loved.
Cue wind machine.
To be cursed by love!
Phineas! Make it stop!
Phineas then tells Ferb to drop the flower petals, but the latter accidentally drops the plumbing supplies instead. Candace's over-the-top performance was hilarious in this part.
Okay. Drop the flower petals.
Whether 'tis no...
Oops. Wrong prop. What the heck? Let's keep it. Oh! Okay, people, that's a wrap.
Even though Candace's performance is terrible due to her injuries, Ferb cleans up Candace's performance in the editing room, replacing her with a beautiful, realistic-looking woman, which is actually Candace's own voice actress, Ashley Tisdale. Also, the castle shown in Ferb's video edit is the Alcazar of Segovia, which is located in Spain, formerly used by the royal family, actually used as a tourist attraction. And Phineas says that is what they call movie magic.
To think, to dream, to be free of the curse. I look beautiful!
That's what they call movie magic.
You two are the best brothers a great actress can ever have!
Candace is very satisfied with how it looks. After the movie is produced, a sneak preview is shown at a movie theater, shown for teenagers who are the target audience. For the producer, if they like it, they're in business, but if they hate it, he draws a finger across his throat, meaning the studio is dead. Among the audience members includes Dimitri, Millie, Pedro, and Holly. When everyone sees the title change from the Princess Sensibilities to the Curse of the Princess Monster, everyone approves of it, and this leaves the crew optimistic about its success. Back at Doofenshmirtz's lair, Doof demonstrates his ray on a baby in the park, which becomes heavier and uglier, sending a girl into the air on a seesaw, and then he tests it on the Limburger, gives the cheese to Perry, and warns him that once he eats, he won't be able to stop. Some errors I spotted here. His age accelerator shows green on the power level when he is about to demonstrate it, but shows red when he is coming back in. Plus, the power level on the machine appears on the right of the machine as he comes back into his building after demonstrating his invention, but it is supposed to be on the left, as it is in the rest of the episode. When Doofenshmirtz comes back with crackers or Melba toast, he is horrified to discover that Perry has eaten the entire cheese wheel in one mouthful.
We're in luck. I still have some leftover Melba toast. Oh no! The cheese! What happened to the stinky cheese? Harry the platypus, you ate all the cheese? No!
Another error is that when Perry eats the cheese, his eyes are light teal and then turn white when the camera zooms out. I never noticed that before myself. Dr. D becomes angry and tries to zap Perry, who now has the body shape of a frisbee. While the two are fighting over the cheese, the sneak preview audience is accidentally hit by the age accelerator-inator, and now they all hate the movie because they have become cranky old people who find the movie way too loud. Then Doofenshmirtz finally traps Agent P and turns the power knob to a dangerous level, then inadvertently inadvertently zaps both of them as the machine explodes. The result is that both Perry and Doof grow grotesquely old. Doof makes fun of Perry, but then Agent P rips his old skin, revealing that he wasn't growing old after all, merely wearing a suit that protects him against the effects of the ray. Doofenshmirtz also tries, but just rips his clothes off, so he surrenders and retires to bed, saying, "Well, it's already 4:30, I think I'm going to bed. Curse you, Perry the Platypus." That was possibly my most favorite part of this whole episode.
Oh, so you had an age accelerator proof suit. Well, I have a little surprise of my own. Well, it's already 4:30. I think I'm going to bed. Curse you, Perry the Platypus.
Afterwards, Candace's movie is never released due to bad press from the overage sneak preview audience, and Phineas and Ferb return home, showing Candace their internet movie, The Swamp Monster of Danville, on the computer. And cultural reference incoming, Phineas and Ferb have a computer that looks similar to an iMac, another Apple product look-alike after I spotted the iPod knockoff earlier. In it, they feature Candace in a slowed-down version of earlier when she yelled at them saying they ruined everything, followed by a globe of earth on a string breaking into a ton of pieces. That whole movie they show was funny.
Oh boy, this is gonna be great.
You guys ruined everything.
Phineas is impressed that they got over 5 million hits, and he says fame is fleeting, and Ferb adds, but the internet is forever, which is a play on the saying, glory is fleeting, but obscurity is forever, a quotation attributed to Napoleon Bonaparte. Then Candace faints and Phineas says, "Good night, Candace." This end part may as well be in tie for my most favorite moment as well.
Enjoy while it lasts, Candace. Fame is fleeting.
But the internet is forever.
Good night, Candace.
The only other cultural reference is the title, which is a parody of the common phrase used in the entertainment industry, lights, camera, action. There are 5 other fun facts I found. One is that this is the second episode in broadcast order without a song in it, following Roller Coaster. Third, if it's in production order, because there was also Candace Loses Her Head. 2 is that this is the second time in broadcast order that Candace doesn't try to bust the brothers following Lawn Beach Party of Terror. The third in production order since there was Swindler. 3 is that this is the first time in broadcast order that Perry does not join Phineas and Ferb at the end, and in production order, Candace Loses Her Head came before it. 4 is that this episode got a book adaptation called Runaway Hit. And 5 is that there was originally going to be a scene with Major Monogram playing with dolls before noticing Perry's presence, but it was scrapped, likely due to time constraints after the episode was storyboarded and animated. Just like before, the animation here is mostly good, besides some of the errors with the zapping effects, the expressions, the stars in Candace's eyes when she daydreams of being a movie star, Candace's hair getting messy with each take, and the creatures that crawl across Candace when they're being let out. Plus, I like how they animated the Ashley Tisdale portrait for the edited version of the movie, how they moved her mouth. Also, another thing, with the story about a kid wanting to be a filmmaker and putting their friends or family members in it and how they sell the movie, I remember there was an animated series on YTV I watched called Being Ian, which is a Flash animated series about a 12-year-old boy named Ian Kelly whose destiny is to become a filmmaker, featuring various movie references. It was produced by Nelvana, which has also done stuff like Franklin, Babar, the Care Bears family, and the Berenstain Bears, and Studio B Productions, now Wild Brain Studios, the same studio that worked on My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, and the short spin-off of this show, Take 2 with Phineas and Ferb. It's one that I have some really fond memories of, and it does pay some tribute to major Hollywood blockbusters. For those who want to watch it, it's up on YouTube for free. So in all, this was a great episode with some nice movie references, some good animation, and plenty of funny moments to offer, even with some animation errors. Even film buffs will get a kick out of this. Now, our final subject is the credit sequences. The end credits of Raging Bully is a repeat of the last verse of He's a Bully when aired by itself, and for Like Candace action, we see Candace walking by in the sidewalk in humiliation, while many kids recognize her as the swamp monster of Danville from Phineas and Ferb's viral movie. In the credits, some of the additional voices include Jeff Bennett, Phil Lamar, and Gray DeLise, who is known to voice characters like Vicky in The Fairly OddParents, Sam Manson in Danny Phantom, several characters in The Loud House, and Wonder Woman in DC Superhero Girls. I kinda like this credit sequence. My favorite part is when the last two boys call out to the so-called swamp monster of Danville, "You rock," and agree with each other about it.
I got it! The swamp monster of Danville. You rock! She rocks.
Yeah.
A nice way to wrap up this episode. And finally, we are going to end things off with our roller coaster rating. So, what do I think? On a scale of 1 to 10 roller coasters, how many do I give these separate segments and the whole episode? I'll give Raging Bully a 9 out of 10, and Like Candace Action the same rating as well, 9 out of 10. There's plenty of stuff to like about them, even if there's a few minor nitpicks with them. So, I give episode 5 a 9 out of 10. Ferbtastic episode, and I'm willing to watch it again in the future. Now for the Twitter poll results from 2 weeks ago, and here to read them out to you once again is our reporter. Take it away.
Hello, listeners. This is the reporter here, and now it's time for the results of the last Twitter poll question. We asked our listeners which of these 3 hashtag chibi tiny tail shorts based on hashtag hamster and Gretel is your favorite. Hashtag Danville Discussion poll. The choices were A. Ice Cream Mayhem or Ice Cream Rewind, B. Museum Mayhem or Fight at the Museum, or C. Roller Coaster Romance. 11% said Ice Cream Rewind. 33% said Roller Coaster Romance. But with a dominating 56%, our listeners said that Museum Mayhem, also known as Fight at the Museum, was the best Hamster and Gretel chibi tiny tail short. So now let's listen to Caleb's opinion and a new Twitter poll question for this week. This is the reporter signing out.
Thanks, reporter. But what would be my favorite among those 3? Well, I may have said this before, but it's hands down Museum Mayhem. It has some cute moments, such as when Gretel, Hamster, and Kevin are taking a selfie with a cute animal filter. The Milo Murphy's Law cameos were nice with the Venus de Milo Murphy and that Diogi painting. I like that one Easter egg of Aladdin's magic lamp. The fight scenes were pretty good, and the chibi animation was top-notch. It was just all around very good. But now with the previous poll out of the way, let's start our next Twitter poll. And this one is going to be related to Like Candace Action. I thought about this, having a major Hollywood celebrity join Candace in starring in one of her movies. So the question this week is, if Candace Flynn were to star in a movie with a big name celebrity, who would she star with? Hashtag Phineas and Ferb, hashtag Danville Discussion poll. And I picked these 4 choices. A. Jack Black, B. Scarlett Johansson, C. Jim Carrey, or D. Amy Poehler. To make your pick, you can go onto Twitter and find my alternate page at Caleb the PNF Guy, or search for hashtag Danville Discussion poll, and you can go right over there to make your voice heard. And that's all there is for this week. Thank you for listening for this episode of the Danville Discussion. As for me, you can find me on my Facebook page at Real Caleb Dirksen, on my Twitter, Tumblr, and TikTok pages at Caleb Dirksen2 with the number 2, on my alternate Twitter page at Caleb the PNF Guy, on my Instagram pages at Caleb.Dirksen for my main page, or at Caleb Flynn Fletcher for my alternate page, and on my DeviantArt page at Caleb Dirksen20. You can also find me on Discord by typing the username Caleb Dirksen, that's 2 words, and then typing the code number 4600. And if you go to the invite link in the description below, you'll also get an invite to my Discord server so that you can talk with me about anything, including this podcast or my other content. You can also find me on YouTube. Just search for Caleb Dirksen and look for the icon of me as a soldier. And if you want to support my work and get some great rewards all at once, which also includes getting access to my content before anyone else, whether it be my videos, my podcast episodes, or whatever, then you can become a patron on patreon.com/Caleb Dirksen. I highly appreciate your support over there. As for this podcast, we are on Apple Podcasts, we are on Stitcher, we're on Amazon Music and Audible, we're on Google Podcasts, we're on Spotify, and you can also find us on Anchor by using your Apple or Android device or going on the web at anchor.fm/Caleb-Dirksen. It'll take you directly to the Danville Discussion page. If you guys listen to this podcast on Apple Podcasts or any other podcast services, do you mind just go and rate and review the podcast? That would be nice, as long as you're being respectful. If you have listened to this podcast as a video on YouTube, however, then go and push that like button and leave us a little comment with your thoughts on this episode. You can also share your feedback or ask some questions by sending us an email at danvillediscussion@gmail.com with the series and episode title in the subject line. Join us next time, and I'll be talking about episode 3 of Hamster and Gretel, which contains superhero sibling rivalry and close shave. Tune in next time for the latest episode of the Danville Discussion and all things related to Phineas and Ferb and beyond. And with all that said, thank you guys so much for listening here, and until next time, this is Caleb, over and out. This podcast was created strictly and only for entertainment and information purposes. It is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company, Disney Television Animation, or their affiliates. All and any names, images, clips, sounds, or other items related to Phineas and Ferb, Milo Murphy's Law, Hamster and Gretel, and other Disney properties are trademarks and or copyrights of their respective holders. All original content from this podcast is the intellectual property of the Danville Discussion and the host or hosts running the podcast, unless otherwise noted.